Sun Quan was stationed at Ruxukou, busy reorganizing both his naval and land forces and strengthening defenses. One day, urgent news arrived. Cao Cao had personally led 400,000 troops from Hanzhong, marching in massive force toward Hefei. Though the stated purpose was to relieve Hefei, the true intention was clearly another southern advance to pressure Jiangdong. Upon hearing this, Sun Quan immediately summoned his advisors, including Zhang Zhao and Gu Yong, to discuss countermeasures. Everyone understood that Cao Cao's forces were overwhelming in number, and that mere passive defense would only lead to being crushed. Sun Quan therefore ordered his navy into motion, commanding Dong Shi and Su Sheng to each lead elite troops and deploy 50 large warships along the waterways near Ruxukou, lying in ambush for the enemy. Chen Wu was also ordered to patrol the riverbanks to prevent surprise crossings. Zhang Zhao advised that although Cao Cao's army was large, its supply lines were stretched and its momentum aggressive. If Wu could strike first and disrupt his rhythm, the situation would become more manageable. Sun Quan agreed and asked his generals, "Cao Cao comes from afar, his troops are weary. Who among you dares to strike first and blunt his edge?" Ling Tong immediately stepped forward and volunteered, saying he needed only 3,000 troops. Gan Ning sneered and declared that a mere 100 cavalry would suffice. 3,000 were unnecessary. Ling Tong took this as a public insult, and the two argued fiercely before the assembled officers, creating visible tension. Sun Quan intervened at once, warning against underestimating the enemy. He ordered Ling Tong to lead 3,000 troops out of Ruxukou to reconnoiter and engage the enemy if encountered. Ling Tong set out with his force. Not far from camp, dust rose in the distance and banners appeared. The Wei vanguard was approaching. Cao Cao had sent Zhang Liao as the forward commander. When the two armies met, Ling Tong showed no hesitation and charged directly at Zhang Liao. They fought fiercely, exchanging blows for over 50 bouts without a clear victor. Hearing the battle reports, Sun Quan grew uneasy, fearing Ling Tong might be overwhelmed if the fight dragged on. He immediately dispatched Lu Meng with reinforcements to retrieve Ling Tong and ordered a temporary withdrawal. Seeing Ling Tong return, Gan Ning's fighting spirit flared instead. He went straight to Sun Quan and declared that he would lead only 100 cavalry that very night to raid Cao Cao's main camp. If even one man or horse were lost, he would claim no merit. Sun Quan was greatly encouraged, seeing this as the perfect chance to strike at the enemy's morale, and agreed at once. Sun Quan personally selected the finest 100 cavalrymen and rewarded them with 50 jars of wine and 50 jin of mutton. Gan Ning gathered the men, poured wine into silver bowls, and drank 2 bowls in one breath, utterly composed. He told them the mission was extremely dangerous, and that only those willing to follow him to the death should drink. Some hesitated. Gan Ning drew his sword and roared that if he, a senior general, did not fear death, then any man who shrank back was unworthy of wearing armor. Stirred by his resolve, all the men knelt and vowed to follow him unto death. At the second watch of the night, Gan Ning ordered each man to place a white goose feather in his helmet as a signal. Fully armored, the 100 cavalry slipped silently out of camp and rode straight toward Cao Cao's encampment. As they neared the camp, Gan Ning led the charge, tearing down barricades and shouting as the 100 riders swept in like a violent storm. They aimed for the central command tent, but found it heavily fortified with interlocked war wagons, impossible to penetrate. Gan Ning immediately changed tactics. Instead of forcing entry, he led his riders in swift strikes throughout the camp. Wei troops could not tell how many enemies there were. Shouts rang out everywhere, drums thundered, torches flared like stars, and chaos engulfed the camp. Wherever Gan Ning rode, Wei soldiers scattered in panic, none daring to stand and block him. After a time, Gan Ning broke out through the southern gate. Zhou Tai had already been sent to cover the retreat, and all 100 riders returned safely to Ruxukou without a single loss. Suspecting ambush, the Wei forces dared not pursue. Back in camp, Gan Ning ordered drums and flutes sounded as the men shouted, "Long live!" Sun Quan personally came out to greet him, grasped his hand and praised his courage, saying the raid would leave Cao Cao sleepless. Gan Ning was lavishly rewarded, and Sun Quan declared publicly, "Cao Cao has Zhang Liao. I have Gan Xingba. The two are well matched." The next day, Zhang Liao again challenged the Wu forces. Ling Tong, ashamed after Gan Ning's feat, asked permission to fight and restore his honor. Sun Quan agreed and sent him out with 5,000 troops, while Gan Ning observed from the rear. The Wei formation was disciplined. Zhang Liao in the center, Li Dian on the left, Eugene on the right. Ling Tong charged and Eugene rode out to meet him. They battled for over 50 bouts with no clear advantage. Cao Cao personally rode to observe and secretly ordered Cao Xiu to fire from the flank. Cao Xiu's arrow struck Ling Tong's horse, throwing him to the ground. Eugene rushed in to kill him. At that moment, an arrow whistled through the air and struck Eugene in the face, killing him instantly. Both sides sounded the gong and withdrew their commanders. Ling Tong later learned that Gan Ning had fired the arrow that saved his life. Deeply ashamed and grateful, Ling Tong knelt before Gan Ning, and the two became sworn brothers, never quarreling again. Soon after, Cao Cao, though frustrated, resolved to overwhelm Jiangdong with sheer numbers. He divided his forces into 5 routes and advanced on Ruxukou. Cao Cao commanded the center, Zhang Liao and Li Dian the left, Su Huang and Peng to the right. Drums thundered as the army pressed toward the river. On the river, Dong Shi and Su Sheng had already formed their naval lines. Seeing the vast Wei forces, many Wu sailors grew fearful. Su Sheng declared that those who took their lord's pay must repay it with their lives, and personally led several hundred volunteers in small boats straight into Li Dian's formation under heavy fire. Dong Shi remained aboard the large ships, beating drums to cover Su Sheng's assault. As the battle raged, a sudden storm arose. Violent winds and towering waves rocked the ships. Soldiers panicked, some trying to leap overboard. Enraged, Dong Shi stood at the prow with sword drawn, declaring that abandoning the ship was treason. He executed more than 10 fleeing soldiers on the spot. Though order was restored, the storm worsened, and the ship capsized. Dong Shi, still gripping his sword, sank with it, dying a heroic death. Meanwhile, Su Sheng continued fighting deep within enemy ranks, soaked in blood but refusing to retreat. On land, Chen Wu battled Peng De but, lacking reinforcements, was driven into a forested ravine. His sleeve caught on branches, and Peng De seized the moment to strike him down. Hearing the crisis, Sun Quan personally rode out with Zhou Tai to rescue the front. He was soon surrounded by Zhang Liao and Su Huang. Cao Cao ordered Su Chu to charge and kill Sun Quan. Zhou Tai fought desperately, repeatedly breaking through enemy lines to protect his lord. Wounded by dozens of spears and arrows, he finally carved a bloody path to safety. Seeing Su Sheng still trapped, Zhou Tai charged back again and rescued him as well. Just as Wei forces believed victory assured, warships suddenly appeared on the river flank, arrows falling like locusts. Lu Sun had arrived with reinforcements and struck from the side. Caught off guard, the Wei army collapsed and retreated with heavy losses. After the battle, Sun Quan learned of Dong Shi's death and Chen Wu's fall, and was overcome with grief. He ordered Dong Shi's body recovered and gave both men full honors, personally conducting their funerals. Sun Quan then held a great banquet for Zhou Tai. He poured wine himself, touched the scars covering Zhou Tai's body, and wept, saying his life had been saved repeatedly by Zhou Tai's sacrifice. As Zhou Tai explained each wound, Sun Quan urged him to drink, honoring each injury. Zhou Tai became drunk beyond measure, and Sun Quan bestowed upon him a ceremonial parasol, granting exceptional honor. Wu and Wei then faced each other at Ruxukou for over a month with no decisive outcome. Urged by his ministers to preserve the people and the state, Sun Quan agreed to a truce. After returning north, Cao Cao was elevated to king of Wei and named his eldest son Cao Pai as heir. Yet soon after, the mystics Wei entered Wei and repeatedly mocked Cao Cao with supernatural tricks, vanishing at will and leaving ominous prophecies, casting an eerie shadow over the later years of the great warlord. Summary: this chapter highlights the brutal struggle at Ruxukou and the stark contrast in heroic character. Gan Ning's 100-rider raid shatters Wei morale. Zhou Tai saves Sun Quan at the cost of his own body. Dong Shi and Chen Wu die in loyal sacrifice. At the same time, Cao Cao's rise to kingship and Zhuxi's mockery suggest that as power peaks, suspicion and retribution draw ever closer, foreshadowing future upheavals in the Three Kingdoms. Knowledge points. 1. Gan Ning's 100 cavalry raid. The feat is greatly exaggerated. While Gan Ning was indeed bold and known for night attacks, there is no historical record of 100 men freely entering and exiting a massive Wei camp without loss. 2. The rivalry and reconciliation of Ling Tong and Gan Ning. Their dramatic enmity and transformation into sworn brothers is fictional. Historically, they were fellow Wu officers without such a dramatic personal arc. 3. Lu Sun's sudden arrival with massive reinforcements. The timeline and troop numbers are exaggerated. At this point, Lu Sun had not yet risen to supreme command, and no record exists of an emergency rescue of this scale. 4. Overall structure. While the general outline of the conflict is historical, most battlefield details, heroic exploits, and the Zhuxi episode are literary embellishments added for dramatic effect.